Hi, everybody. I'm Harleen. So as was said in my intro, I've done quite a few jobs till I figured out what I really wanted to do. That's all it's all about. So I'm going to talk you through my journey. How did I ended up doing all those things, and what did I learn along the way? So since I was a little girl, I really wanted to be an astronaut. And I'm sure most of the people in this room has had that idea somewhere along the way. It's just that I carried on with that idea along around 20 years longer than I should have. So I got my undergrad and grad degree in space engineering. And I was the only girl who graduated from my class in that degree. And it was really, really tough. Not for the reasons that you're thinking, but if I missed a lecture, I was really, really easy to spot. So after my degrees, I moved on, and I was lucky enough to work for NASA, every space engineer's dream. It was like being in Disneyland for me. I got to work on a program called New Horizons, and it was the first spacecraft that was being built to be sent all the way to Pluto and beyond. And it was an amazing thing to work on. And I worked on something called integration and testing. So when a spacecraft is built, it's built in form of boxes, and you bring all those boxes together, and you make sure that all of them work and survive the space mission. For New Horizons, it was 10 years till it went to Pluto. So you have to do vibration testing, acoustic testing, thermal cycling to make sure that the spacecraft works, because you cannot go up there and fix it once it's launched, which is very, very different than all other engineering disciplines. After New Horizons, I thought that NASA is great, but at the end of the day, it's a government organization, and the pace of things was very, very slow. So I went and joined a startup called RapidEye in Berlin in Germany, and we were kind of pioneers. Now Elon Musk is cool and doing space, but back in the day, we were the first people who launched commercially funded set of satellites. So we built and launched RapidEye satellites. And the mission behind RapidEye was very, very simple, that we wanted to have enough satellites to be able to monitor every point on Earth at any given day. So you can move the camera around and see what's going on. And it's amazing that it took us hundreds of millions of dollars and launch money to be able to complete this mission. But now we can do all of that with just cell phones. I'll come back to that later. After RapidEye, my career descended a few hundred miles into Earth's atmosphere. I started working for a company called Rolls-Royce. So Rolls-Royce doesn't make cars. How many times I've been asked if I got a company car? Rolls-Royce doesn't make cars. Rolls-Royce cars are actually made by BMW. Rolls-Royce makes these big plane engines, jet engines. So next time you get on a flight, and a big plane especially, if it's A330, 40, 50, or 787, 777s, the likelihood is either it's a Rolls-Royce engine or it's a GE engine. It's a very weird market because you can only buy two products, and I was selling them. Each engine costs around $10 million, and the biggest deal I did was $1 billion. And it allowed me to put a lot of zeros on my resume, which was pretty cool. And the people that I was dealing with were heads of state. So I looked after 26 countries and airlines in those 26 countries. I got to deal with, for example, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, President of Kazakhstan, even the dictator of Turkmenistan, who never bought anything, by the way. So one other part of the job was not just selling new engines, but to keep the ones that are flying, to take care of them because of the customers to be happy. And very weird part of my job was whenever there was something wrong with an engine that was in flight, I used to get a text. So if there is an in-flight shutdown or something even smaller or small fault, I used to get a text on my phone. To begin, it was really, really scary. Every time the phone buzzed, I actually didn't want it to buzz because it's like, oh my God, there's some problem. But you get desensitized to it like you do to everything else. And the thing is that modern planes are built to be able to fly safely and launch with just one and land with just one engine. So it's okay. But one day, I got this really, really terrifying text, and that was a double engine failures. Two engines on a plane had stopped working. And that was the Malaysian flight 17, which was going from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, and something had happened to it. It took us hours, and we were in touch with Malaysian Airlines as well to figure out what was really, really going on. It was amazing that we had to wait hours till a camera crew, a journalist, went to the site and figured out what had happened to the plane. And to be honest, we still really don't know what had happened to that plane and who shot it down. During those hours, I kept thinking, why can't I find out? Why can't I contact somebody who is, we knew exactly we already lost the plane, who is in Ukraine and can tell us, are there survivors? What happened to the plane? What is it looking like? But I can't contact those people, although they all have smartphones and they all have probably messaging platforms like WhatsApp, but they are not on my contact list. What a silly limitation to have. Why can't we contact people everywhere else in the world and get firsthand news what's going on? And that's really planted the idea of ground in my head. What is ground today? And I'll talk about that in a second. And another interesting thing happened while I was at Rolls-Royce. The messaging platform, WhatsApp, got sold to Facebook for $19 billion. So $19 billion for me was a very interesting number because the market cap of Rolls-Royce, this 150-year engineering company, where I sold engines for $10 million each and did billion-dollar deals, was $19 billion as well. So it's fascinating that a 50 people company with very little capital expenditure can have so much impact on people's lives. And that really, really cemented for me that idea that with software and especially the ubiquity of mobile, you can have so much impact and provide utility to people. And that is where I started on my journey of the startup called Ground today. So there are 2 billion smartphones in this world today, and that number is growing constantly, and we're going to have 4 billion smartphones by 2020. So the world is covered by phones that satellites could have never covered it before in a low-cost fashion. But all we do with our mobile phones today is check Facebook and Instagram, which is great, but you can do that on the desktop as well. So we are using mobile phones for its mobility, but not its ubiquity. Mobile phones are an amazing device because you literally have a news truck in your pocket. What do you need for a news truck? Back in the 80s, you carried this massive thing around and you took your news truck and you had a cameraman. All of us have this super high-def camera in our pockets. We have a GPS, we have a two-way transmitter. So we actually have more technology than a journalist did back in the 80s. So how can we not use that technology and reach out to people and tell what's happening around us and just become reporters? So there is no dilution of news when it gets transmitted. Facebook and Twitter and other social networks have done an amazing job to give us that platform so we can all publish our stories. But the problem with Facebook and Twitter is they never set out to be news platforms. So they lack the checks and balances that are needed to be able to rely on news. So here's a thought experiment. Say I pull out my phone and go to Twitter, and then write a tweet with whatever hashtag I like and upload a picture or video from whichever place I like. So Twitter lets me actually pick my location, whichever. So I can pick Charlottesville, Virginia, I can pick London, I can pick Barcelona. And if you guys here give me retweets or likes, so people are going to start thinking whatever hashtag I'm using, there's some truth to it. And if you guys do the same, and I can retweet and like that, and all of us do, then we have a trend going. It's as simple as that to be able to spread fake news. So that is the problem, and there's so much traffic going through, although there's very, very good news that should be reliable, but it's very, very hard to depend on it. And the problem is people are taking popularity as a single signal for veracity, which is not the case. So that was the reason we founded Ground. Ground was founded for the purpose that everybody can get access to verified, unbiased, undiluted news. And this should be our fundamental right to be able to have access to that. So the first thing that we do is we monitor social media. We use our artificial and patented technology and artificial intelligence and monitor Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Reddit, and now actually Snapchat as well, they have opened up to us. And we look for signals, and whenever a news meets our threshold for veracity and newsworthiness is important so the cat videos don't make it through. So whenever it meets our threshold, we break it to you and say, hey, there's something interesting happening, and you can rely on that news. You don't have to look at the noise all the time. The second thing that Ground does is that we'll pick up a news, and we don't just rely on the citizen journalist or just social media. We show you every single news outlet who is covering that news, but side by side, so different perspectives. So say if Trump is meeting Putin in in Helsinki will show you this is what CNN is saying, this is what Fox is saying, this is what Breitbart is saying, this is what Russia Today is saying, this is what Al Jazeera is saying, BBC is saying, but this is also what local Helsinki Times is saying, for which you would have never gotten and read that. So Ground does all of that for you, so you as a user can find that full picture opinion, because all of us have biases, and all we do is reconfirm our biases when we keep reading the stuff that we are used to. And the third thing is where the name Ground comes from. Whenever something happens around you, say some news is reporting right outside, you can participate in that news. So say there's a protest that is reported by Waterloo Record, CBC Kitchener, or even on Twitter or Facebook. You who are within the geofence of that news will get an alert and say, hey, this has been just reported around you. You are within the geofence of the news. Can you confirm or debunk that news? And can you share how it looks like? So you are the only people in the world who will be able to share content to that news. Nobody else sitting in another country will be able to do that. So you can say what's really going on or what's not going on and can stop the spread of fake news. And by doing this, what we are doing is giving people a tool to be able to participate and fix the problem of misinformation that's going around and not just passively complain about it. Oh, so that was my journey from space to ground, which I managed to make without crashing. Hopefully, it'll give you some ideas to work on your own passion projects and solve the issues that you are passionate about. Thank you very much.